Always interesting though, indeed. Well, mushroom murderer Erin Patterson is revealing her 7 reasons for an appeal, claiming there was a miscarriage of justice during her trial. For more, I'm joined this morning by criminal defence lawyer Ruth Parker in Melbourne. Ruth, thanks for your time this morning. So Patterson's legal team has raised a number of issues as grounds for their appeal, including with the cross-examination. Let's start there.
So one of the grounds of appeal relates to how robustly Erin Patterson was cross-examined. I have to say I don't entirely understand the nature of the complaint. I'm sure that it'll be expanded upon in due course, because when you put your client in the witness box, which is an unusual move for defence practitioners to take, they are then open to robust cross-examination, and your option, if you have an objection, is to object to the judge. Now, it might be a very novel area of an appeal to say, well, yes, you can cross-examine, but how far can you go?
Yeah, and the other interesting part about this too is their issue with where the jury was staying. Is it common for jury members to be in the same hotel as prosecution?
Look, there was nothing common about what happened in this case. Usually jurors are not sequestered. It happens very, very rarely, and only when the circumstances require it. But from the outside looking in, even if there's no evidence that something untoward happened, there is a principle in law that says that justice shouldn't just be done, but it should be seen to be done. So really it's kind of failing the pub test in a way. And you can understand how an accused who's gone through a lengthy trial, maintained their innocence, given evidence, finds out that the jury is staying in the same small hotel room as police and prosecutors and media. It's not a good look.
Yeah, but Ruth, why wasn't that raised during the trial? I mean, it's not as though they suddenly realised they were all staying at the same hotel.
Well, the jury were only sequestered when they went in to deliberate the verdict. So during the course of the trial, they were going home every day and being warned not to talk about it. But it's when the jury go out to deliver the verdict that they can be sequestered, so that they can't be influenced, even unintentionally, by other people, and so that they can focus on the task at hand. And what seems to be the case is that it was only a few days in that they realised that this was an issue, and it was reported to the trial judge. And we heard reports when it was immediately coming out in the media that there were journalists as well staying at that hotel who were hiding in cupboards to try and avoid accidentally coming into contact with a juror, because complaints can be made and it can derail entire trials.
Well, that's what I mean. I mean, they were deliberating for several days on their verdict, so it is odd that this is only coming up afterwards. Look, we know there's some cell phone tower issues as well, but the backlog in the Victorian court system is huge, so it'll be some time before we actually hear this appeal. But based on those 7 grounds, how do you see this playing out, Ruth?
Look, I think it's going to be an interesting case in terms of cell tower evidence, because we're seeing it more and more in criminal cases. And defence lawyers like myself have become increasingly concerned that it's considered almost a sort of identification evidence, that just because your cell phone pings from a certain tower, that can put you in a certain location. And I think it's going to be interesting, particularly with today's modern world, for the court to examine it and see whether it's really as reliable as the prosecution would have us believe that it is. But issues of admissibility of evidence always come up in Court of Appeal matters. Yep. It's very routine. But in order for the court to be satisfied that there was a substantial miscarriage of justice, given all of the incriminating conduct that came out in the trial, that's going to be interesting. And then if there's a retrial, how are jurors going to put out of their heads everything they've heard in the media about this case?
Well, exactly. There is nothing dull about this case, and it will go on with the eyes of the world watching. Ruth, thanks for your time this morning.